In this video, we're going to be going over how I took the Next.js subscription payment starter project on GitHub provided by Vercel and deploy it on the web. As you can see here, we have a fully functional website and we can go to pricing and it shows the price. This project uses Supabase and Stripe on the backend and we'll be setting those up as well. We can click subscribe and it goes to the Stripe checkout page and we can check out. We'll also be looking into how we can set up GitHub authentication using Supabase. Alright, let's get into it. What we're going to have to do basically is test this out locally before we deploy it. And in order to do that, we'll need to first clone the Next.js subscription payment repo. I will have a link to this down below in the description. Go ahead and clone it onto your desktop. Open it in Visual Studio Code or any IDE of your choice. You're going to notice that there are two environment files in the directory. Go ahead and remove the .example suffix from both environment files. The .env file is used by Supabase and the .env.local file will be used by Next.js. We're basically not going to touch any code in this project. We're only going to be touching these two files and also setting up Supabase locally and Stripe webhooks so that it works locally on our machine first before we deploy it later in this video. You're going to want to have Docker desktop installed as well as Supabase CLI installed. To start Supabase locally, use the Supabase start command. And you might find that you get this error where it says GitHub auth environment variable is not set, and that's referring to GitHub client ID and GitHub client secret here. To be able to get these, we need to go to our GitHub settings, developer settings, and in our OAuth app, we just want to create a new OAuth app here. And I'm just going to call it test. Our homepage URL should be the localhost 3000. This will just be the local address that Next.js hosts our website. And the authorization callback URL, we're going to be grabbing the GitHub redirect URL here and then just paste it in. We're just going to register the application and we will now have our client ID, which we'll copy into here. And then for our GitHub secret, we will just generate new secret. We generate a new GitHub secret, we copy it, and then we paste it into our environment files. We can now start Supabase locally, and it should not give any more errors. When Supabase is done starting up, you'll notice that it outputs a few URL and keys. The most notable one that we want to take is the service role key here. Just copy this and paste it into the service role key environment variable. One notable thing that is worth mentioning here is that if you click on this URL, the studio URL here, it actually takes you to the Supabase studio that is running locally on your computer. And you can go to the table editor and you'll notice that there's a few tables that have been created for you. And these are actually based off a schema in your project. And you can find the schema under Supabase, migrations, and the init.sql file. And in here, you can see that there's a few tables being created, the users table, the customers, and so on. You can modify this file or create a new migration if you want to modify your Supabase database. The next thing we want to set up is how to listen to Stripe webhooks locally. To be able to do that, we need to first make sure that you have Stripe CLI installed. You're then going to run Stripe login. And this is going to redirect you to your web browser. I'm not going to do this in front of you because maybe I can. It's going to ask me to input one-time password, so I'm going to do that and just make sure that this code matches the one here. And then all you have to do is click allow access. That should authenticate your Stripe CLI so that it connects with your Stripe account. Let's then run bun stripe listen. This will give us a webhook signing secret. We can just copy this, paste it right in here. To get the Stripe publishable key and Stripe secret key, we can go into our Stripe dashboard, make sure you're in test mode. Under developers, you're going to go to API keys. We're going to copy the publishable API key here. We're gonna paste it in. We're gonna do the same thing with the secret key. I am revealing everything anti. We just paste it in, and now Stripe should be connected to our Next.js project. Okay, at this point, let's test out Next.js web app. So we can just go bun run dev, and then open up localhost 3000. We see that our Next.js website has no subscription currently, and that's because we have not added any products to our Stripe account. We'll do that in a few moments, but we can definitely test out the sign-in process. Let's try using our GitHub OAuth. Looks like it works. We are able to sign in using GitHub. Now, to address the pricing issue, we go to our Stripe dashboard, make sure in test mode, we go to products. Where the heck is products? Sorry, it's right here. I'm blind. We just create a new product. We can call it whatever. I'm gonna call it Pro Hello World. Great. And then I'm just set it to $5 recurring, add product. And now if we refresh our Next.js website, we should see Pro Hello World. Wonderful. If you also go to your Supabase Studio, you'll notice that under prices, we do have our pricing here, and our products, we see that we have Pro description Hello World, exactly what we just created. Awesome. Now, let's see how we can deploy this on the web. First, you're gonna need to sign up for a Vercel account. We're gonna use Vercel to host our website, and you're gonna want to make sure that your repo is on GitHub. That way, we can import our web project from our GitHub repo straight into Vercel. And this is how we're gonna do it. So once you've signed up for Vercel, you're gonna be asked how you want to import your project. I'm gonna choose import a project here, using the GitHub repo, and here's my repo. I'm gonna import it, and that's all. I'm just gonna hit deploy. You'll notice that we will get an error right away, pretty much. And this is due to not having the environment variable set up on Vercel. Remember that we did set up the environment files locally. Those are not pushed to our GitHub repo. So we're gonna have to do that on Vercel. And this is how we're gonna go about it. First, let's go to the project. We're gonna go to our settings, and under environment variables, we're gonna be adding the environment variables from our .env file into here. Let's go ahead and start filling out our Supabase environment variables first. If you remember, we have the unknown key, the URL, and the service role key. These values are currently from our local Supabase instance. What we'll need to do is we'll need to create a Supabase project. We're gonna go to supabase.com, and we're gonna start a new project. We're gonna call it YouTube, and I'm gonna create a strong password. Make sure to remember this password, as you'll need this for pushing your local database schema to the remote Supabase. Okay. And we're just gonna go ahead and create the project. Once it's created, you can see that we have the unknown key, the service role key. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy these variable name. We're gonna copy that, paste it into here. Project settings, under API, we'll be able to get the unknown key. Add another. We will then add the Supabase your URL, and that's just right here. We're gonna also add our service role key. I'm revealing everything again. Amazing. Okay. We have all our Supabase key, so we can just go ahead and save. Our project will now be connected to Supabase. However, if you notice, this Supabase does not have any tables, but our local version of Supabase does have tables. So how do we get this schema up here remotely? Let's go back to Visual Studio Code, and we're gonna go ahead and log in to our remote Supabase. So we're gonna use Supabase login. You're gonna hit enter to open the browser. It's gonna connect. Wonderful. Supabase is now logged in our terminal. Let's now link the two projects together. So our local version and our remote version. We use Supabase link project ref, and we're gonna take the project ref. Our project ref is just the URL here. Project/URL. We just grab that. We can just paste it in here. And this is where you're going to be using your database password that I did tell you to remember previously, literally 2 seconds ago. So type that in. And to push the schema, all we have to do is just do Supabase db push. And yes, we want to push that schema. And now, if we go back to our remote Supabase, we do have the schema, which is awesome. This would be a lot more complicated if our remote version of Supabase already had tables and there was differences between the remote versus the local version. If you are interested in a video about how to sync the remote and local Supabase database together so the history merges, let me know down in the comments below. Alright, next, let's set up our Stripe environment variables. So this is where, if you are actually deploying, you're gonna make sure that test mode is off like this, and then you're gonna follow along forward. However, for this purpose, I'm going to do it in test mode because I'm not gonna be taking any actual real payments on the website that I am deploying right now. The first thing we wanna do is we're gonna go ahead and create another endpoint. So go to webhooks, add endpoint, and to get the endpoint URL of our Vercel hosted website, we're going to need to go to our project. Well, actually, our project has not been deployed yet. So first thing, we're gonna go deployment. We're gonna go ahead and redeploy. Every time that we change a environment variable on Vercel, we're gonna have to redeploy. Just keep that in mind. Now let's check out our domain and see where our website is at. So this is now live. However, as you can see, it says no subscription. But in our local version, we do have a subscription. And that's because the only listeners that were listening to webhooks was our local project. However, we're gonna need to add an endpoint for our Vercel hosted website. And all we have to do for this is we're gonna go back to the website, copy the URL, go back to Stripe, add the URL, and if you can remember, where we're handling the webhooks is under API webhooks. So we're just gonna add API /. I believe you don't need a slash. Don't quote me on that. We're gonna add all events again. Cool. So now we'll need to add these 3 Stripe keys to our Vercel project. So let's go back to Vercel, go to our settings, go to environment variables, and we're gonna copy the publishable key variable, and we're gonna grab this from developers, API keys, publishable key, copied, paste. Wonderful. Next, Stripe secret key, reveal, yes. Okay, paste. And Stripe webhook secret. Gonna go to webhook URL signing secret, grab that, paste, save. Do not forget to redeploy, as I've just said a few moments ago, that after changing any environment variables on Vercel, you need to redeploy. So we're gonna redeploy and see where that takes us. Great, now that it has been deployed, we're gonna need to delete the product again, re-add the product. So therefore, if we go back to our deployed website, we can see that we have Pro Hello World. And if we check our Supabase table, we can see the product, prices, wonderful. Okay, let's try signing in with GitHub. Oh, I forgot, we have not set this up in our remote version of Supabase yet. So let's do that now. Let's go to Supabase. We're gonna go to authentication. Under providers, go to GitHub. We're gonna enable GitHub. Let's go back to GitHub we're gonna create a new OAuth app, and we're gonna go YouTube Live, and homepage URL, the URL of our Next.js website. And then for authorization callback, let's go to Supabase, copy the callback URL, paste it here, register application, boom, create new client secret, copy the client ID, paste it into the client ID on Supabase, grab the secret, paste in the secret, and save. Okay, so if we try signing into our app now, we're gonna notice something weird happening. It redirected us back to localhost 3000 when we just on our deployed version of our URL. There's actually two things we forgot to do. The first thing we need to do is we need to set our site URL in Supabase to the actual deployed address. And this is under authentication URL configurations. We can also add redirect URL here, authorize redirect URL, just making sure that it both works. I don't think you need a slash here, but I don't think it really matters. And if you remember, in our project, we had Next.js public site URL, which we never added to our Vercel environment. So let's do that now. Okay, we're gonna add that, save, and remember, we're gonna redeploy this. Redeploy, make sure this is not ticked. We want to deploy from scratch. All right, let's test our sign-in flow again with GitHub. And if we went to our pricing page, we can subscribe. And again, if we wanted to use a test credit card, we just type in 42 all the way. I'm just gonna, whatever. Great. Okay, subscribe. Let's go. Navigating to Supabase table editor subscriptions, you should be able to see your subscription that you just bought. And if we click manage, this is one thing I don't like about the template, is that manage should really go to the user portal, but it doesn't. However, here, if you go open customer portal, you can still go to the portal here. Now I have two plans, as you can see, because this was not set up properly on the template side, which we can definitely dig into that in another tutorial if that's what you guys want. But I think that portion is pretty straightforward if you want to do a check. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any feedback. Remember to stay positive, keep on learning, and I'll see you in the next one.